All right, getting lots of questions about this. Zack Morris, the penny stock promoter, and a bunch of other fin Twitters made basically $100 million with security price manipulation. I've been warning about him and his merry band of idiots for years. This is justice. But again, it's like love and hate with these promoters because even though I call them out on their BS and their tactics and how they brainwash newbies, and a lot of newbies just go down with the ship because they don't even realize that they're following promoters, they also create predictable price action. And I think there's always going to be promoters, whether they use a Saved by the Bell character name or, their real name. I don't think anyone ever really uses their real name when they're this fake. But you got to learn from it, okay? A lot of people are congratulating me like, oh, you were right. I know this. This isn't my first rodeo. I tweeted, this is my 25th or like 30th group of penny stock promoters busted since I began trading, since I began teaching. It's not a question of if I'm right. It's a question of when. Like, this is the good thing about promoters. You know how it ends. It's like going to see a movie and knowing the ending. Maybe you won't enjoy that movie, but you know how it ends. With these penny stock promoters and these penny stock pumps, we know how it ends because every single one ends the same. It's like I'm freaking taking crazy pills, but again, I have to combat against bots, the promotional ring where they basically lie, the newbies who don't realize that I'm trying to help them. Like, I fight with newbies who are brainwashed by promoters, and I'm like, you guys understand I'm trying to help save you. And hardly ever do I get them to understand it until they lose 50, 60, 70, 90% of their money, 100% of their money. And they say, damn, Tim, I wish I would have listened. If we're going over, remember LTNC? Remember there was like the LTNC army? And I was like, this is such a crock of BS. Like, this whole pump. And it got up to 8 cents before crashing. Remember HMBL? I got a few death threats from this pump. Remember ENZC? Oh, it's the same chart pattern. Wait a minute. Why is OZSC? Why does it have the same chart pattern? What about CYDY? There's a whole conspiracy that I was part of the short selling like mafia. Never even shorted CYDY. They just make stuff up. GNUS, I got in a fight with a whole bunch of animators because they said that they were going to create like this Netflix, like this Cartoon Network Netflix. And I was like, you guys realize that your CEO is just diluting this and this is a classic pump pattern. It's going to come crashing down. They're like, you don't understand. We're hardworking animators. We're creating a new paradigm. Nope. Same pump as always. DPLS, like the CEO, mocked me for calling his stock like a supernova. He's like, we're not a supernova. And I'm like, you have all the promoters. Your chart pattern reeks of a supernova. It's going to spike big and it's going to crash big. Sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So for me, it's not like, oh, I told you so. It's me knowing the end game. This is why I teach. It makes my blood boil when people are taken advantage of by these promoters. Leave a comment underneath this video. Say, I will never trust anyone in the markets. Be cynical. Be very cautious. Expect the worst and you'll never be disappointed. And again, I know this is sad. It's cynical. Like, you want to be positive. In the court of law, you're innocent until proven guilty. With penny stocks and promotions, and when there's a group trying to pump this stuff up, they're guilty until proven innocent. Okay? Let's go back here. I'll post a whole bunch of links to different articles. This is Men's Journal, going back, 2014, where I busted the Wolf of Weed Street and all of his pot stock pumps. The journalist started out believing the Wolf of Weed Street because he was like trending on Twitter. Like Zack Morris, he was trending on Twitter because he gets all these newbies to believe him. They think he's like, the second coming, and they're just promoters, and they just get all these people to follow them. And then again, we know how it ends. So I just want you to learn from history. I always link this pot article with current promotions. They're like, are you stupid? This isn't a weed company. I'm like, I don't care whether it's a weed company, whether it's a crypto company, whether it's an oil company. It's all the same promoter tactics. and I'll link this article so you can read it and be shocked. I'll link my 7-step framework because this really works with these promos. It's crazy to me. Many years after I came up with this, with 7 specific steps, it really still works to a T. How to spot the top of a penny stock pump. It's usually when the promoter lies and claims that I'm shorting. Part of the reason why I don't like to short sell anymore is because the promoters will just say, oh, short and distort. Sykes is leading the bear rate. Even when I've done 2 shorts in the past 2 years with 1,000 shares each, very minimal shorting, but my life would be easier if I just didn't short at all. I think shorting is a very, crowded niche. There's been a lot of squeezes. Some of the best traders I know, have lost big shorting because they can't manage the risk. But this article, and I'll post a link below, how do you spot the top? It's when the promoter lies and claims that I'm shorting. The promoter of CLNV just did this the other day. This guy named Frank, and I call him Frank the Tank because his stocks just tank. And it was right when this stock was going supernova, and I was actually going long, and I was actually dip buying this. This is probably my biggest loser in several weeks, if not months, because I thought that it would bounce. But Frank the Tank, when he lied about me short selling, whoever is paying Frank, guess what? Why is he lying about me short selling? Because they're looking for someone else to blame. Because whoever paid Frank is liquidating their shares. Frank the Tank also pumped COSM, which is now also down 70%, and also TPTW, which is also down. These stocks, whether they spike for a few hours or days, Zack Morris and his merry band of idiots, they pump DATS. Oh, what a surprise. It's the same chart pattern. Right here, when, they were saying DATS was going to be huge, he also pumped CEI during this run-up. He had some serious juice, 30 cents to $4. And I'm not saying never trade promoted stocks, but never believe promoted stocks. Never believe the promoters. Because, if you do read, what the SEC said with $100 million, I guess I'll link the SEC complaint. And if you read through it, it's long, but basically, they're just trying to get everyone to buy when they're all trading together and they're all selling, and they're just trying to lure in idiots to, buy. And this is why I say never follow alerts from anybody. Trading is an individual person sport. It's not a team sport. So when you have a group of people or multiple chat rooms, they all had their own Discord chat rooms, and they would all alert the same stock a few minutes after each other and try to just get everyone to follow them in. Be very cautious because they are dumping against you. This is a very big reason why, I don't just type out oh, here's the stock and here's me buying it. I type out 1, 2, sometimes 3 sentences because I don't want you following anybody's alerts. I want you learning from my mindset in real time. A lot of these stocks move very fast. I'll link this article. I'll link this blog post. Try this every morning, okay? This whole blog post is all about how when there's promoted stocks, a big reason why you have these dumps near the open is because whoever is paying the promoters, guess what? They get restricted shares, and those shares become unrestricted. And the very day that whoever has those shares, whether they're, company management, whether it's a third party, whether it's the promoter themselves, but usually these pumps happen right when the shares are becoming unrestricted. So they're trying to pump these stocks up, lure as many people in so that they can then sell their newly unrestricted shares. When a share is restricted, they physically can't sell. So a lot of these promoters, management, consultants, they get shares that are locked up for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. But the very day that they can sell, that's usually what causes these panics. And what causes these bounces is, again, when you know that there's promoters involved, unless it's like Frank the Tank, who's, plays just crash with no bouncing, which does happen sometimes. But most of the time, the promoters will look to bounce a stock after this initial panic because they don't want an investigation. They don't want to just let the stock drop 70, 80, 90% and everyone loses all their money. Even like Zack Morris and all of his friends, they might have been, pumping it up, but they walk the price down. It's pure manipulation. And they're trying to get people not to realize that they're at fault. Zack Morris, I posted this video in case you didn't realize, like this is Zach's, I don't even know the guy's real name, but this is the promoter's real face. But he used Zack Morris from Saved by the Bell. But he did this video of me. Just watch this for a second.
Tim Sykes sounds jealous. He's calling you a cokehead. It's hilarious seeing fucking Tim Sykes come at me like, bro, shut the fuck up, bro. Please, do this to me in person. I'm gonna fucking come to your next event. I promise. Tim Sykes sounds jealous.
So, I'm glad I paused it right here so you can see what my tweet was. I call out these promoters. I go hard against them. And I said, for those asking me if DATS can come back, it depends on how much coke your promoter has done today. Too much coke and they're useless, CWISH and CLOV. Too little and they're unmotivated, CEI. So really, your investment is in the hands of your promoter's drug dealer. Good luck. And I have to be blunt about it because guess what? These promoters are cokeheads. Like their idol, the Wolf of Wall Street, they love flashy things. And Zack Morris, again, I don't even know his name. It's something like long Greek name. Him and all of his buddies love to show off their cars and their watches. And, I heard some crazy stories about their drug use. So I gotta be blunt about this. Leave a comment below if I've protected you from these promoters, if you now understand why I teach. Because again, this makes my blood boil where they're misleading newbies. Like trading does not have to be this thing where you go down the ship with these penny stocks. This is why penny stocks are so hated. Because people believe these promoters and then the stocks drop 30, 40, 50, 90% with no bad news. And the promoters say, oh, it's the short sellers. It's short in the store. No, it's the promoters dumping. It's who's paying the promoters. This is part of like this whole video that this guy made when I was calling him out. And he's like, oh, I'm not a promoter. I'm not a cokehead. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And now, this has been over a year since he made this video. And now he gets busted. Just don't believe anybody in penny stocks. Again, if you're skeptical about me, good. Be skeptical about everybody. I'm proud to just be real and show you my screw ups like with CLNV. Literally, I was trying to dip by it because I thought that the promoter would bounce it. I'm not embarrassed about it. Sometimes I'm just wrong. That's the beauty of being real. I'm going to show you when I'm wrong. I'm proud to donate 100% of my trading profits to charity. All my charity donations are public information. We're a 501c3. The whole problem with this industry is that it's so damn shady. There's so many chat rooms where everyone thinks that like they're following like legit millionaires or expert traders when they're just following promoters and manipulators. Okay? I can't tell you how badly it's going to end where if you believe these people who don't show every single trade. Him and his merry band of idiots and promoters, they would only show their big screenshots and they would lure everybody in. And now it turns out like even if you read the SEC complaint, which I'll link below, like even their screenshots weren't accurate. Like, they're photoshopping stuff. Like it's sad. It's sad. But unfortunately, this is penny stocks. This is promoters. All you can do is learn. I have this whole video, which I'll link to, where, I was like talking about promoters at this conference in Vancouver, which was actually pretty funny because Vancouver is like the only, major stock exchange to get shut down due to too much promotion. So I'll link this video where I'm talking about, how promoters operate. But again, this is nothing new. Okay. This is literally the 25th or 30th, maybe even the 40th. I've lost track of how many promoters have been busted. Remember NKLA? Is that company still in business? It's not even just, promoters. It's also sometimes just blatant fraud. NKLA, same kind of thing where this stock, they claimed that they had like this new electric car and it turned out to be a total, BS. This was a higher price play, but again, it followed the penny stock pump pattern. Trevor Milton blocked me when I called him out because him and his promoter, what was the guy's name? Alex? Somebody? Was it Alex Cutler? Or maybe that's a fake name too. I don't even know. But they were saying, everybody hold. This is the next Tesla. If you sell, you're weak. And they just try to get everyone to hold while they are in fact selling. And this is what you can see with these promoters, with these liars. If anybody ever tries to get you to hold a stock, they're probably selling and they don't want their house of cards to collapse. Even RKT, I mean, like this was a higher price stock, and it was the same kind of thing. I think this was the same promoter saying like this is going to revolutionize the world. And when you see these people where they say you have to hold, you're part of the crew, hodling is the best, it's all wrong. And it's usually the insiders or the promoters or whoever hired the promoters, they're selling. You should never listen to anybody else about when to buy or when to sell. For me, all I try to do is teach patterns that repeat. And you can see that I win more than I lose, and I just try to capitalize. CEI, I can't tell you how much hate I got when I was like, this is a pump pattern, it's not going to last. This follows the 7-step framework to a T. So, long story short, it's cool that there's justice. I mean, they still have to do the whole court case, and probably one or two of these promoters will flip on the other promoters. Like it's a whole mess. But it's crazy that they made basically $100 million in the past 2 years, in just using like memes and luring in a bunch of people. Oh, I'll link this article too. This was the other penny stock promoter who used, what was his picture? He used what was that movie? Was it Clockwork Orange? This promoter who was arrested, I'll link this, and he used like images from Clockwork Orange. Like there's so many people with these pictures that they use of like movies or TV shows. If they're not using their real name, they're probably hiding something. If they're not showing every single one of their trades publicly, they're probably hiding something. Okay? Again, I could be a whole lot more popular in the trading industry if I wasn't so fixed on showing every trade and, not gambling and being conservative. But again, this is why I teach. Okay? So many people lose some, half, most, all their money believing these promoters, not realizing that they're getting promoted to, that they're getting advertised to. If you read this blog post, this guy, what was his name? Gallagher, but he was using Clockwork Orange photos, and he always like ripped on me too. And, he was promoting ALPP. And again, all these people, with ALPP saying, oh, this is a higher price stock. They've done financings. They have legit investors. No, it's a classic pump, same kind of thing. And by the way, if anyone says legit investors or like smart money, let's not forget FTX had all the biggest venture capital firms in it. Madoff was chairman of the NASDAQ, one of the most prestigious roles in all of finance, and he turned out to be a total fraud. So if anybody ever says you have to hold, we're going higher later on, it's not a pump. Like, they're just lying. They're lying about everything. Just expect the worst. Expect that you're being lied to. Don't ever be afraid to be skeptical. Don't ever be afraid to be conservative. All of these plays, I traded these plays, but again, I recognized that they were pumps. I realized that there were promoters who were lying to newbies. I tried to warn the newbies. They didn't listen to me. They lost most or all their money. I usually underestimate it because I'm always scared. Like if you are trading a pump, it doesn't necessarily just have to go up a lot and then crash. Sometimes it gets halted. MMTLP has a whole bunch of people right now because the stock is halted. Even before it halted, it dropped 80%. What kind of idiot holds through an 80% drop? But again, they're brainwashed by the promoters. By the way, Zack Morris and his band of idiots promoted TRCH, which was the former MMTLP and MMAT. So, these are promos too. But again, people don't want to hear about it. I'm fighting with newbies and bots on Twitter and in chat rooms galore. And they say like that I'm short selling. I never short sold MMTLP, by the way. I was buying the short squeeze. This is another thing. Like if you recognize that it's a pump and you recognize that there are a lot of short sellers in it, when a stock that's a promo has a technical breakout like this did in the sevens, it was actually a pretty amazing short squeeze for a little bit. That's not to say that a short squeeze can turn into a long-term investment. You don't want to mistake a promo for something where you're just going to believe the promoters and you're going to believe that like there were price targets of MMTLP going to 1,000. It was ridiculous. So long story short, learn all you can about promoters. Learn what you like trading, whether you like dip buying the morning panics if the promoter is going to bounce it to support it so they don't get investigated, whether you like buying the breakouts or the short squeeze, whether you like shorting the first red day. There's so many different patterns, but you have to be safe. You have to expect the worst. And again, I don't like trading with big money because these stocks can get halted. Either way, if you're shorting too, you can get squeezed in a really difficult way too. So for me, I'll continue teaching. I'll continue taking small profits, and hopefully I can help save a few brainwashed people. Send this video to someone if they're brainwashed by promoters so that they can start to understand, and click a lot of links below. Learn these patterns. It's going to happen time and again. The only question is, are you going to be prepared or not? Thank you. I'll see you in chat.